Hello everybody and welcome back to my channel. My name is Rux, I'm a Western tropical astrologer, and today we are going to be talking about the full moon in Cancer. This full moon, folks, is happening on the 3rd of January at 10:02 in the morning GMT time. So of course you can adjust that for your own time zone. The full moon is taking place at exactly 13 degrees 1 minute of Cancer. What does that mean? It means that if you have planets or angles, such as the ascendant, around 13 to 14 degrees of Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, and Libra, you are going to feel this lunation the most. The reason being that we only feel in astrology the most the events that interact somehow, that trigger our natal chart, our natal planetary placements. The natal chart is the map of the sky at the time when we were born, and it is comprised of various elements. Probably the most important, the most significant elements, although I'd say they are all important, are the personal planets and the angles in the natal chart. The personal planets are the Sun, the Moon, Venus, Mars, and Mercury, and of course the ascendant, descendant axis, very, very important. Also the midheaven IC axis, really important when it comes to our direction in life professionally, but also when it comes to our home life. So again, only those of you who have planets or angles around 13 to 14 degrees of the cardinal signs are going to feel this full moon the most. There will be some people though who are going to really like this full moon. Those of you who have planets or angles or significant points such as the North Node, around 13, maybe 12 to 14 degrees of Pisces, Scorpio, you're going to really like this full moon because it will harmoniously aspect your placements, your natal placements, but also those of you who have planets or angles around 12 to 14 degrees of Taurus and Virgo. Yes, also Virgo. What can we expect from this full moon at a collective level? First and foremost, I would recommend that you go back in time, that you jog your memory, that you have a think about what was going on in your life around the, the end of June 2025, when we had a new moon in Cancer on the 25th of June, around 4 degrees of Cancer. Essentially, at the time of this full moon, 6 months later, we are probably going to see some culminations, some peaks, some results, some outcomes connected in one way or another with the new moon at the end of June 2025. So that is my first recommendation. Go back in time. Secondly, oh God, this is such an interesting lunation because there's a lot of mixed energy. On the one hand, we've got the moon co-present with Jupiter, the great benefic. Jupiter exalted in Cancer, the great benefic is doing its thing. It's offering protection, trust, faith, joy, optimism. It is lifting us up. It is bringing in this uplifting energy at the time of the full moon. On the other hand, the full moon is activating Mars. I mean, the moon is in opposition to Mars in Capricorn. And we also have a very, very strong Mars in the sky at the time. Mars is exalted in Capricorn. So I would recommend that you keep at the back of your minds, folks, the following, well, paradox maybe. We can both be elated on the one hand, we can jump for joy, we can celebrate something, we can be hopeful and optimistic, and on the other hand, we can feel frustrated, we can feel angry, we can experience conflicts, we can experience arguments. So it's almost as if two, I don't want to say separate realities, because obviously they're part of the same reality, but two different types of energies are playing out at the same time. We've got the energy of the greater benefic Jupiter plugging in, and we've got the energy of Mars essentially pushing us a little bit on edge in terms of reaching the end of our tether for some folks. That is a possibility. There's also a possibility that, I repeat, some good things are coming about, but on the other hand, there is a significant experience of something being cut out of our lives, something being removed out of our lives. You have to think about Mars as being the celestial surgeon, for better or for worse, metaphorically speaking, right? So Mars cuts things away. Mars takes things away. Sometimes Mars can destroy things. Now, destruction is not necessarily a bad thing. If, for example, a disease is destroyed, then obviously that is a good thing. We tend to associate destruction with kind of like a negative outcome and the building up of something with a pleasant, supportive, auspicious thing, but it's not always the case. It is absolutely not always the case. Cardinal water, full moon in Cancer. Big feelings are probably going to come to the surface. People will feel emotional. It is a very sensitive full moon. It is a very raw full moon. We feel deeply, intensely, strongly about things. We might feel deeply attached to something. We might feel a strong sense of compassion towards something. We might want to protect something. We have to remember that Cancer brings in a very protective, a very nurturing, but also protective energy. Cancer is like the shield, okay? So, deep feelings, deep emotions, empathy, compassion, nurturance, protection, a strong sense of belonging is probably going to be stirred up at the time of this full moon. We might ask ourselves, who is my family of choice? Family is going to be in the spotlight a great deal, FYI. Family, homes, the topic of families and homes, potentially property, land. Patriotism is probably going to be a bit of a hot topic as well, because Cancer is at an archetypal level associated with patriotism. Also, I mean, of course, the country is also our home. I mean, technically the planet is our home, but that's another conversation altogether. We have to keep in mind, however, that the Cancer-Capricorn axis that is activated at the time of the full moon is not just about our family and home and roots and a sense of belonging and where we feel taken care of. By the way, speaking of taking care of, we might feel like we have to take care of some people around this time, or take care literally by giving it our kind of like emotional resources, take care of certain aspects of our lives. Going back to the Cancer-Capricorn axis, the Capricorn axis is all about, well, Capricorn in general, archetypally speaking, is all about getting the job done. So achieving a goal, achieving an objective, reaching the top of the mountain, okay? So we've got big feelings on the one hand, we've got a strong sense of belonging, we've got family, we've got emotions, and on the other hand, we have the top of the mountain. We have order, we have structure, we have duty, we have discipline, we have responsibility, we might have hardship. We have to remember that Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, the great taskmaster who teaches us via experience, aka concrete, day-to-day sort of circumstances, affairs, where we test our mettle, where we have to see whether something is practical, pragmatic, applicable. So speaking of pragmatic, we might sort of veer between being very sensitive at the time of this full moon and also very pragmatic, or kind of like having to make a very pragmatic choice whilst we are stirred up emotionally speaking. So it's a very interesting mix, I'd say. I repeat, I'm looking forward to Jupiter being around, Jupiter being in the mix, because there will be this kind of overarching, pervasive sense of, okay, trust and faith and even looking forward to the future. But on the other hand, that martial input might bring feelings getting hurt, conflict with the family, arguments with family and with authority figures, fights over land, home, country, at a collective level, there may be experiences of homes being attacked, countries being attacked also. I do have to put it out there, although it's never easy to talk about these things. We may feel like we have to stand up and defend our home, our roots, our family against someone. There is a risk for some people of accidents at home or of accidents involving family members or potentially accidents and sort of incidents of a physical nature in both the home as well as in the workplace. There's this duty versus feeling or responsibility versus feeling kind of energy that we have to manage. I believe also what's going to save, symbolically speaking, this full moon is the fact that Jupiter will harmoniously aspect Saturn, and it is also in a harmonious aspect to Uranus. So even though there is a high chance of conflicts, of, for some people, arguments, of fights, of attacks even, of accidents, of physical incidents, I believe there is a way to rebuild. I believe there is a way to sort of focus on the good parts of something falling apart, something coming undone, and maybe this ushering in a new era, an era of increased stability in some shape or form. I do want to give a little bit of a heads up to some people, though, especially on the physical front. Please keep in mind, massive disclaimer, this is not medical advice. Take this information as pure entertainment only, and for any medical sort of questions, question marks, etc., please always take the advice of the doctor. I would recommend that those of you who have planets or angles or important points in the natal chart around 12 to 14 degrees of Cancer, Capricorn, Aries, and Libra, I would recommend that you be careful from a physical standpoint. Do not rush around the house. Careful how you manage hot tools, sharp tools. Give a heads up to your parents if you have to. I would also not rush if you're on the road. I would also be careful if I were in your shoes when it comes to working out, especially around the 2nd and the 3rd of January. I would be careful not to burn yourselves out. I would be careful with fire in general. And choose your battles very, very wisely. Choose your conflicts very, very wisely, if you ask me. Now, before we go into the update for each of the 12 zodiac signs, which obviously I know a lot of people are going to jump straight to this, I do want to remind you folks, or maybe share this information for the very first time if you're here for the very first time on my channel. I do want to make you aware of the fact that I'm a full-time consulting astrologer, and if you want to work with me, if you're looking for answers, guidance, a stronger sense of meaning and purpose, an understanding of what your life purpose is, an understanding of what life lessons you have to deal with and might need to learn from in this lifetime. If you're looking for guidance in terms of the timeline of your life, the chapter of life that you're in, the specific period of time where maybe you have to make important decisions. Speaking of decisions, if you are at a point where you have to decide, what do I do next? Where do I go from here on the career front, on the relationship front? It could be a very good time to consult an astrologer. I see it as part of my mission to help people reconnect with their soul's intentions, to help you make better informed choices, to help you make aligned choices from a cosmic perspective, both in terms of your soul's path of evolution as well as in terms of the specific period of time where we're at, because astrology works with cycles a great deal. I mean, life, nature, biology works with cycles. We are born, we grow, we die. Nature is experiencing a reset, a cyclical reset. So if you want to better work with the cycles of your life, I repeat, it might be time to consult an astrologer. You can book my services by going to the link in the description box, but also in the pinned comment, which is written in the stars-astrology.com. And if you're a new client, the 1 hour, 15 minutes Zoom consultation is the option to go for, regardless of what sort of guidance you're looking for, whether it's about your natal chart, the year ahead, compatibility, career, relationships, relocation, astrocartography, and such. That is the option to go for. And of course, if you are an existing client, you know that you have other options as well at a preferential rate, which is the 30 minutes follow-up consultation for specific questions, or the year ahead forecast, the 12 months ahead forecast, which you can actually purchase at any time. You don't have to purchase it at the beginning of the year or around your birthday. You can purchase it halfway through the year, and we're going to look at the 12 months ahead and get a deeper understanding of how you can make the most of what is to come and how you can be better prepared, because astrology is like the weather, if you ask me. You can still go ahead and do whatever you want with your life, but if it's raining, I think you are better equipped with an umbrella. But at least that is how I see things. So written in the stars-astrology.com, both in the pinned comment as well as in the description box, you're going to find the link to my website. By the way, just know that my consultations are done via video call, via Zoom. We can record them if you want to, so that you can go back to them, rewatch, take notes, etc. If you don't want to record them, just let me know and we can absolutely not record our call, so you know where to find me. Secondly, if you enjoy these forecasts, and especially my monthly forecasts, I do kind of like a month-long, month-ahead horoscope, which you're going to find on my channel for each and every month of the year. You may want to check out Astro in Calendar. There is another link in the description box and in the pinned comment. It is an app that I have teamed up with, that I have partnered with. Essentially what it does is it extracts the information from my monthly horoscopes and it adds it as events in your calendar. So you can have an Outlook calendar or like a Google calendar, a Gmail calendar and whatnot. And when you sign up for Astro in Calendar, you put in your rising sign. It's based off of the rising sign. And then Astro in Calendar is going to populate your own calendar that you use on a day-to-day basis, etc., for work and so on, with important events throughout the month. So I'm going to give you an example. Let's say I am filming this right before the 1st of January. And on the 1st of January, Mercury enters Capricorn. And when I click on the Mercury enters Capricorn event in my calendar, put in by Astro in Calendar, it gives me the description from my monthly horoscope for Cancer rising, because I am a Cancer rising. So check it out. There's also a free trial, so you can test it out, see if you like it, and you can decide whether you subscribe to it or not. Now, without further ado, let us jump into the update for my lovely, lovely Aries suns and Aries risings. 3rd of January, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we have a full moon in Cancer, my dear Aries, activating your 4th house, 10th house axis, co-present with Jupiter in your house of home, but opposing Mars and Venus, but mostly Mars, in your house of career, public status, and public reputation. First of all, Aries, have a think about what was going on in your home life, in your family life, in your private life at the end of June 2025, because this full moon might put the spotlight once more on the themes that were on your radar around that time. It is a culminating point, this full moon, when it comes to your home and living situation. So maybe you are making a big decision, maybe you're moving ahead with a drastic, sort of dramatic step when it comes to your home life. There is a possibility that some of you might be leaving behind the home. There is a possibility that some of you might be changing locations at a massive sort of scale. Maybe you're not just moving to a new neighborhood, although you could be. And this big move might also affect your career direction. So you might be thinking, okay, I'm taking a leap of faith, which it actually looks like you are probably on a certain level. You might be taking a leap of faith both in terms of actual living situation, but also in terms of maybe starting off a new adventure on the family front. So I would not be surprised if some Aries risings heard news of, I don't know, pregnancy, or decided to maybe get married, or decided to move in with their partners. So it is a time of big moves, big steps. But whatever you do, it seems to dramatically affect your public life, your, as I said, career direction, professional status potentially, and the concrete ways in which this could play out is maybe you have to walk away from a job, maybe you have to disappoint someone publicly, maybe you have to open up to the possibility of being judged by the outside world. You might be thinking, oh God, when I share the fact that I'm moving in with this person, what is the world gonna say? Maybe some people are going to be very upset. I feel like someone is gonna be upset with you no matter what you do. And I'm not saying that this is a good enough reason for you to reconsider your decision. Absolutely not. But I am saying be prepared for a mixed kind of feedback, shall I say it? Now, there's also a major possibility of some sort of a conflict with a family member, with a parent, especially with one of the parents. You might also assist or not assist. You might witness. I hope you're not assisting, but maybe you are assisting as well. You might witness a big conflict. Someone getting really upset. A big conflict between two family members, and you might feel like you have to choose a side. And I do believe, as much as it hurts you emotionally, that you're going to choose the side that is aligned with your values. So you might side with someone, and the other person might be really frustrated with you because they might say, oh no, how could you? I thought you would be supporting me. But from a values perspective, I think you're going to be sort of nudged to go with what you believe is fair and right. Do be careful when it comes to accidents, incidents around the house, especially something breaking down, something falling apart, something being dismantled. That is very much a possibility, especially if you're moving. Something might be kind of broken along the way. Is that the end of the world? Absolutely not. If you can get some form of insurance, fantastic. But just keep in mind that it could happen. My dear Taurus suns and Taurus risings, 3rd of January, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This full moon in Cancer is, well, it's activating your travel axis. So I do believe some of you could be physically traveling, or you might be booking a trip. Maybe you are booking your accommodation. Maybe you're looking at the best dates. Maybe there is a possibility that you might be having a tiny bit of an argument with someone over when to go on this trip. Maybe they're saying, oh, we should go when it's like super cheap, or we should leave a day early so that, I don't know. Again, it could be a financial thing, so that we don't have to pay this much for this plane ticket. On the other hand, you seem to want to prioritize your comfort, and you seem to feel very strongly about doing things in a really, really specific way. Now, is that a good enough reason to have a fallout with someone? Is that a good enough reason to go into an argument over what day you leave for the, I don't know, Maldives or whatever? I don't think so. I don't think it's a good enough reason. So choose your battles wisely. And also sometimes I believe, even though you know you are in the right, so from a convictions perspective, from a principles perspective, sometimes I believe that in order to maintain a relationship and in order to not hurt someone's feelings, because you might hurt someone's feelings with what you're saying, just choose your battles, compromise. I mean, yeah, maybe it doesn't make that much sense to you, but if it's going to make the other person happy, if it's not that big a deal, why take it to this sort of like additional kind of level and extra length? So don't let things escalate, if you ask me. One major recommendation that I have is do be careful on the road, and also if you're traveling, leave early. Just have a bit of a backup plan. make sure that you get insurance, because even though this full moon is co-present with Jupiter, so there is this kind of like sense of enjoyment and anticipation of the travel, of the trip, there is a possibility that something might happen on the road, or the plane could get delayed and you could end up being very, very frustrated. So make sure that at least it's not your fault. Speaking of the road, there might be something that needs to be replaced with your car or with your preferred mode of transportation. There's also a possibility that you might witness a fight, an argument between cousins, siblings, maybe your siblings if you have several siblings, and neighbors, and you might kind of like step in and feel like you're in a position to pass judgment somehow, because you have the ability to kind of detach a little bit from the whole situation. There's also a possibility some of you could hear news connected with a legal matter around this time. For the most part, I believe it is a good result, a good outcome, an outcome that you are happy with, but you might need to make some extra phone calls, you might need to send some extra emails, there might be some more kind of like communication and paperwork involved. Completely doable if you ask me, but you might need to move very, very, very fast. Last but not least, if you feel like you have been wronged, do not hesitate to send that email. Do not hesitate to point out to someone that they've made a mistake. But do be careful how you point it out. Again, because there is a chance of hurting someone's feelings, especially if it's someone close to you. They could have a very strong emotional reaction. Just as an FYI. My dear Geminis, Gemini suns, and Gemini risings. 3rd of January, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we've got a full moon in Cancer, activating your financial axis. Now, Geminis, first and foremost, think about what was going on for you on the financial front. End of June. Did you start making money in a new way? Did you add to your list of services? Did you start developing a new skill? Did you increase your prices if you work for yourselves, if you have your own business? Have a think about what was on your radar from a monetary perspective around that time, because at the time of this full moon, you're probably seeing some results. Now, it's a mixed bag kind of energy, I will say, because on the one hand, I feel like you're happy with the way things are going for you from a financial perspective. Generally, you are on a roll. Things are looking good. They're growing. They're expanding from a financial perspective all the way until June 2026. And you might somehow feel blessed and lucky and protected from a financial perspective. On the other hand, do you have to pay for something big? Do you have to cover some debt? Do you have to pay off your credit cards? Do you have to pay something on behalf of someone else potentially? Maybe on behalf of, I don't know, a child. Maybe you have to make a significant purchase for your child. Maybe you have to purchase something for your health. I don't know, maybe you're purchasing an at-home set of weights, which is what I recently purchased. Well, I've actually added to my existing set of weights at home, but no one cares. I realize that. So Gemini's back to you. You might purchase something significant for your health. There is a possibility you might pay off some medical bills at the same time, or decide to finally make that appointment to maybe, I don't know, the dentist or the whatever other types of doctors there are out there. OBGYN and whatnot. And part of you is thinking, hey, I feel good, I feel great, I'm investing in my health, I'm starting to make adjustments. You do seem to feel very good from a self-worth and self-esteem standpoint. And I absolutely salute that, Geminis. And you have all the reasons to feel good about yourselves. At the same time, whatever it is that you are putting money towards is probably quite expensive. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you, but you've got the money, you've got the resources. So it's all about kind of spending it with intention, if you ask me. Now, there is a possibility someone might ask for more money from you, and you might decide, hey, you know what? I'm not going to pay for your services anymore. So you might part ways with your existing accountant, your existing financial advisor, your existing chiropractor, for instance. There's also a possibility that you might seal the deal with someone that is going to help you in some way, but they are very expensive. They are very costly. Maybe they're going to help you health-wise. Maybe they're going to help you from a work perspective. Maybe it's a new personal trainer. So there are kind of like these financial partnerships in the spotlight at the time as well for you, my dear Geminis. Cancerians, Cancer suns and Cancer risings. This full moon, my dear Cancerians, my fellow Cancerians, is putting the spotlight on us, basically. Oh gosh, I had to pause here. So on the one hand, I'm going to share the good news. On the one hand, Cancerians, you are protected. You are protected from a work perspective, from a health perspective, and even from a legal perspective. I feel like you're protected. I had to say this at the very beginning, okay? On the other hand, you are facing some really, really, really strong opposition. Someone is challenging you out in the open. Maybe it's a competitor. Maybe it's, I don't know, your nemesis at work. I realize that maybe you're not going to feel this until the 5th of January. Maybe when you're going back into work. So there is some strong opposition. Let's just put it out there. There is some kind of like strong force from the outside pushing against you, being very demanding. Maybe you are even feeling a tiny bit attacked, let's say. Now, the reason why I mentioned you're protected is because I think this is important to keep in mind. So maybe someone threatens, "Oh, I'm gonna sue you." They are serious. I recommend that you take it very seriously. If, God forbid, hopefully nothing like this happens, but if something of this nature happens, take them seriously and take immediate action, because they might take immediate action as well. On the other hand, there's also a possibility that someone might just have a very frustrating, annoying, irritating attitude towards you. And your feelings might be hurt. I will say this. You might feel like you want to cry. You might feel upset for good reason. But this person, I believe, is all business somehow. So it's almost as if they don't care if they hurt your feelings. They're like, "I want this from you." And they're being very demanding, and it feels like almost a little bit of a personal attack. My recommendation is to look at the big picture and to not necessarily take this personally. Maybe it feels like a personal affront. Maybe it feels like you're personally insulted. Is this a good time to retreat in your own shell and sort of be very kind of like self-protective? Not necessarily. Not necessarily. Once again, I recommend that you think strategically and you think about what this person really wants, and you also take action in a very pragmatic manner to either push back or to maybe conform and say, "Okay, this is what you want, fantastic, I'm gonna deliver, but then we're done." Speaking of being done, you might revisit some existing partnerships and collaborations and relationships. They could go sort of like either way. There might be a big fight, there might be a big conflict with someone. It could be even within your romantic partnership sector. And I feel like you're sitting at sort of like two opposite extremes of an issue. You're seeing things one way, the other person is seeing things their way, and no one wants to budge. You are very attached to your beliefs. The other person is like, "No, but this is not doable, this is not practical, this is not the pragmatic way forward." Again, big picture and strategic thinking is going to save the day. And even when a compromise feels unlikely, sometimes it is doable if you give yourselves a little bit of time to cool down, Cancerians. Because I repeat, you're going to be on edge from an emotional perspective. I kid you not. You're probably going to have a very strong visceral reaction. Is there a possibility that some people might part ways, especially on the business front? Yes, there is a big possibility that this could happen. There is a possibility that a boss might leave. There is a possibility that one of your employees, if you have employees, they might also leave. You might feel like this is once again, a personal thing, a personal affront. I repeat, it's probably not personal. They're probably going someplace else because they want to make more money. So don't take it as, oh no, they don't appreciate what you've done for them. I also recommend that you take it slow from a physical perspective. Don't burn yourselves out. Do not respond to any sort of physical, at least that's my recommendation. Do not respond to any sort of physical someone kind of like daring you, or someone like challenging you to do something, saying, oh, prove that you can do XYZ. Prove that you can, I don't know, do 30 pull-ups. You can tell that I go to the gym a lot, so the physical challenges right now are all in the pull-up space for me. Now is not the time to prove that you can do all of that, Cancerians, because you might overdo it. And that is Cancer, my dear Leos. Leo suns and Leo risings. Full moon in Cancer, active 3 days before, 3 days after my lovely Leos. This is an interesting one. It is activating your 12th house, 6th house axis. So on the one hand, there is a possibility you might feel a little bit run down from a physical perspective, and maybe even from an emotional perspective. I believe you're tired, Leos. I'm just going to say it, especially Leo risings. I believe you're maybe exhausted mentally, emotionally, physically. There is a possibility that some Leos might have caught some sort of a cold, or maybe a stomach bug or something. Maybe it's just something that you've eaten and now you're not feeling so good. So I would recommend, as much as you can, take it easy, rest. Don't try to cover all bases, and don't try to overdo it from a practical perspective, from a to-do list perspective, even though I absolutely know that you've got a lot on your to-do list. I know that you're very busy, and it could feel very tempting to just power through and like go ahead, full speed ahead. I say to that, maybe it's not such a good idea. Maybe it is a good idea to kind of ease your way into the beginning of the new year, because there is a strong possibility of something coming to the surface from a health perspective. Maybe it is something that you've already been aware of. That is also a possibility, I will say. Maybe it's your knee, for example, or maybe it's a tooth. So maybe you've been aware of something needing to be addressed from a health standpoint. This could be a culminating point, Leos. I gotta tell you this. So I would recommend that you prioritize health. Mental health is also in the spotlight. You are feeling raw. You are feeling probably on edge. There's also a high chance of having an argument, a fight of some sorts, a conflict with either a colleague, a coworker, or someone that was meant to offer you a service, to provide a service, such as, I don't know, fix your car, or maybe you were meant to offer them a service and they are being very annoying and they're not appreciating all the work that you're doing, and it irritates you so much. Choose your battles very, very wisely, Leos, if you ask me, if you're being sucked into this kind of conflict, because if you do let things escalate, it could end up in you no longer working with this person, or this person no longer wanting to collaborate with you. Speaking of work, there's a possibility that some Leos might wrap up a job, an important work project. There could be things exiting your life from a work perspective. Some of them maybe you were not aware of. Maybe you did not see them coming. This full moon is activating your 12th house, so there is a chance that you're gonna be caught a little bit off guard. Let's just put it this way. There's also a possibility that maybe management is going to kind of change the way that you do your work. Maybe they have kind of like new expectations from you in the workspace, and you're not necessarily thrilled with them. I say one thing to all of this, Leos. If you've been considering changing your job, if you've been considering new options or opportunities, if you've been considering exploring other things behind the scenes, maybe this is your cue to just do it, to start the process of walking away from something that is no longer fulfilling from a day-to-day standpoint. Also, last but not least, something could break at work. Maybe it's a physical sort of like structure of some sorts if you're working with concrete materials. Something could also break if you're working, I don't know, with gadgets, computers, and so on, and it might need to be totally and completely replaced. Make sure that, I don't know, if you're working in the if you're working in the clouds, hopefully not, maybe that you have a backup to the work that you're doing so that you can at least save some things that would otherwise be lost. Virgos. Virgo suns and Virgo risings. 3rd of January, active 3 days before, 3 days after. This one in Cancer Virgos, I think you're actually gonna really like it. I'm just gonna go out there and say it. You are amongst the people that will probably enjoy this this lunation. It can be a full moon of getting together with friends, of getting together with people that are close to you, close to your heart, people that feel like family, friends like family, or family and friends together. Maybe you are celebrating something together with your friends and family. Maybe it feels like a bit of a dream come true, a goal kind of achieved, a major objective that you are crossing off your list. Maybe it feels like it's something that took a lot of energy out of you. Maybe it was very draining, emotionally speaking, but also energetically speaking. Maybe it required a lot of resources from your end, Virgos. But alas, here you are, and you're sharing it with the world. If you're not in the mood for celebrating, maybe you're tired. You could be tired. You still have the South Node in your first house. If you're not in the mood for celebrating, at least maybe you want to make some sort of a public announcement and say, woohoo, I achieved this goal from a home perspective, let's say. Maybe you've bought your own home, or maybe some of you are expecting a child, or maybe some of you are finally kind of like releasing your album. Maybe you are ready to share with the world a big project that you've worked on from a creative perspective. Maybe you've written your first book, possibly. I feel like this event, this celebration, or maybe this public announcement is also going to come with some expenses. Maybe you're going to have to spend money. Maybe you're, I don't know, inviting people out and buying drinks or something along those lines. Maybe you're attending a group type of event. Maybe you're going to a concert or something big, and it is costing you money. Generally, it's an auspicious full moon. I do have to say this. However, there is a strong possibility, especially for those of you who have kids, that this full moon could bring some sort of a fight or an argument with one of your children. Maybe you are not in agreement with them in terms of an event that they want to attend, something that all their friends are going to, something that no other parent has an issue with, and maybe you feel like the bad cop, the bad parent, and whatnot. I believe there is a way to find a middle ground. There is a way to compromise. No one has to fully win or fully kind of lose this. Speaking of children, there is a possibility that your child might complete one of their big projects or might achieve a big milestone, and that might also involve them walking away from a group of people, a community of people, maybe some of their old friends. One of your children, if you have children, could also have a big fight with one of their friends, and once again they might decide to kind of like walk away and distance themselves from this group, from this community. If you are in a romantic relationship, I feel like maybe you could have an argument over your child's future with your partner, but nevertheless, I do believe both you and your partner are happy and excited for your children, and that should probably take priority as opposed to kind of like people trying to win this out. And generally, when it comes to friendships, Virgos, this might be a time when friendships are sort of in the spotlight. Maybe on the one hand, you feel very lucky to have certain friends. On the other hand, you feel frustrated because some friends are very difficult. They are a lot to manage from an emotional perspective. Maybe they are emotionally dumping on you, or maybe they are overly sensitive and they're sort of ruining a little bit your vibe. Maybe you're going out and they're having a cry in the corner. I don't want to sound insensitive, but you might be a tiny bit insensitive to their plight around this time. And maybe it just feels like it's all a little bit emotionally draining. Now, is that a good enough reason to, I don't know, push them out of your life, or distance yourself from them, or try to bring them to a place of reason and kind of like pragmatism? I don't think so, because I believe what they need is just a little bit of compassion. But up to you how you're going to go about this, my dear Virgos. Libras. Libra suns and Libra risings. 3rd of January, active. 3 days before, 3 days after. Full moon in your house of career, public status, and public reputation. Libras. Okay, so something big is happening here. Have a think about what was going on for you career-wise at the end of June. Did you start off a new job? Did you get a promotion? Did a new boss come in? Did you take a big leap of faith career-wise? Did you embark on a new journey from a career perspective? Because now you are achieving a big goal from a professional perspective. That's what I'm seeing. There is a possibility you could be launching something big career-wise. Maybe you're launching your website. Maybe you are updating your LinkedIn, and you're like, hey, I got a promotion. Speaking of promotions, some of you could be getting promotions. Some of you could be getting important public recognition around this time. So you are in the spotlight from a professional perspective, and also from the perspective of your vocation. Speaking of vocation, you might feel very deeply, you might feel very strongly about a specific path that you know is aligned with what you're meant to be doing in this lifetime. On the other hand, there is a possibility that as much as you're kind of like really trusting your path professionally and vocationally, someone at home, maybe it's a parent, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's just a family member. I mean, I realize all of these could be family members also, the partner especially, and the parent. Maybe there is someone at home that is making you doubt a little bit your decision, your intuition. They're casting a bit of a shadow of a doubt over your strong feelings when it comes to something career related. Should you fight them off? Should you go into an open conflict, an open argument, and say, oh, you don't know what you're doing, you don't believe in me? The other person might say, this is unrealistic, you should focus on realistic and practical stuff, and there's so much for you to do at home. I don't necessarily think you should be sucked into this conflict, but there is a chance you might. There's also a possibility you might be accepting something big career-wise. Maybe you're taking a big step forward career-wise, and you realize that things will have to change very drastically and very rapidly at home in your private life. So maybe you are accepting a big job. Maybe you are accepting a big promotion. Maybe you are fully launching into, I don't know, the world of entrepreneurship. But what does that mean for people at home? Are they going to feel neglected? Are they going to try to bring you back down to earth, to ground you, so to speak? I wouldn't take it as a negative thing. I would take it as, hey, they're trying to help. They're kind of throwing in their 2 cents. Is it possible that someone might feel maybe a tiny bit jealous at you taking this decision for yourselves? Yes, that is also a possibility. Libras, I repeat, do not take it personally. Last but not least, there is a chance that something could break around the house. There's also a chance that someone in the home might experience a bit of an incident, a bit of maybe an accident. It could be a parent, maybe they slip, God forbid. I mean, I would recommend that people kind of walk slowly around the house and just handle with care sharp tools, anything that uses heat, and so on. Maybe it's, I don't know, there is a possibility that an old part of the house could just kind of crumble, and it might need to be renovated. It might be something that just has to be replaced. It cannot be, I think it might not be fixable. It's more in the realm of, oh, you got to replace this. You can't just patch it up. So there might be some sort of like practical aspects that you need to be mindful of at the same time, my dear Libras. Scorpios, Scorpio suns and Scorpio risings. 3rd of January, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we have a full moon in Cancer, activating your third house, your ninth house, third house axis, actually. Was there anything on your radar, Scorpios, from an academic perspective, from a travel perspective, or from a legal perspective at the end of June 2025? If the answer is yes, then this full moon could bring back to your attention topics that were on your mind, issues that you were dealing with earlier in 2025 at the end of June. If you're waiting for some big results, some big, I don't know, decisions from a court of law, from a legal entity, from a legal institution, from a governmental institution, from an academic institution, maybe from an institution such as the embassy or anything that has to do with travel status, visas, and so on, this full moon is probably going to bring to your doorstep that outcome, that result, that decision. Now, it looks like it's a mixed bag because on the one hand, this might usher in a new era. It's like, hey, you can now make plans for the future. Maybe you have to make the final payment for this whole thing for your, I don't know, citizenship or your passport. But I also believe you might need to push someone to do something a little bit faster, or give them a nudge, or send them another email, or draw their attention to the fact that a mistake has been made, maybe a typo of some sorts. So I feel like there could be something a little bit wrong with the paperwork or the documents, since Mars is in opposition to this full moon. So I feel like you have to speak up, speak fast, send your email fast, call them fast, in order to have this institution rectify whatever is wrong within the papers, potentially, okay? So that's the one thing that I want to draw your attention to, Scorpios. Some of you could be getting a really important result when it comes to your academic path. Maybe you're being accepted in a prestigious program. Maybe if you have, let's see, if you have a partner that is looking to apply to a prestigious educational program, maybe they're getting their approval letter, I think is that what it's called? Approval email, approval letter. So it could be you, but it could also be a partner getting this piece of news. This is also a time when, if you have a partner, in-laws are probably going to be in the spotlight. Maybe you're traveling to see them, maybe in-laws are traveling to see you. Is there a chance that you might not be in agreement with in-laws over a matter of beliefs, philosophy, principles, politics, and whatnot? So these sort of like big picture matters. Yes, there is a very high possibility. This full moon can bring in arguments and conflicts and verbal arguments in general over matters of principle. I believe you're making some really strong points. I believe you are being really pragmatic and really down to earth in how you present an issue. But if you're entering an argument with someone around this time, keep in mind that they might be really emotionally attached to the topic and they might overreact. So do you want to get to that sort of space, maybe with an in-law, maybe with a mentor or a teacher, maybe with a colleague, maybe with a neighbor, maybe with a sibling? I mean, by all means, but if you don't want to, be careful not to insult someone's beliefs, even if, I repeat, maybe you're making some really good practical points. So I believe you've got to kind of choose your words very, very cautiously, very, very carefully, because you might insult someone, you might hurt someone's feelings. Last but not least, if you're traveling around this time, which that is very much a possibility, you might be in a rush to get somewhere and there's a chance that the plane is delayed. Please do not be in a rush if you are in a car because there is a risk of incidents on the road. You are receiving a degree of protection because the full moon is in a harmonious aspect with your ascendant, but careful with road rage, careful with speeding. You might get a speeding ticket. Is it worth it? I mean, I think not, but who am I to tell you how to live your lives? Sagittarius suns and Sagittarius risings. 3rd of January, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we've got a full moon in Cancer activating your financial axis. Think about what was going on from a financial standpoint, especially when it comes to debts, taxes, loans, other people's money, your partner's money. Have a think about what was going on when it comes to one or several of these topics at the end of June, Sagittarians, because this full moon could sort of put the spotlight once again on issues that you were handling or dealing with earlier in June of 2025. I believe you're going to have to pay for some things, Sagittarians. And it's probably going to be some big thing, or like a set of expenses that feels significant. Let's just put it this way, because the moon is co-present with Jupiter, and Jupiter kind of expands everything that it touches. I believe that you're probably going to help someone if they need your help. Maybe you're paying something on behalf of someone else. Maybe you are supporting someone from a financial perspective. Maybe you're paying something off for one of your kids. Maybe you're paying something off for one of your friends. Maybe you're covering an expense for a friend. Maybe you're also paying something off for your partner if you are in a relationship. Maybe you're being super generous and you're saying, hey, don't worry about it, I'm going to cover it. But I do believe that this full moon is a time to reevaluate how much money you give to others, how much other people are relying upon you financially, because even though you're feeling very generous and you're probably going to cover whatever makes its way to you at this point in time, I believe you've got other practical goals from a monetary perspective that are on your mind, that you want to accomplish, that you are determined to accomplish, and you might need to kind of set the record straight a tiny little bit, and maybe let your kids know, hey, I'm paying for this now, but that's it. I'm not buying any other, expensive excursion or equipment or game or whatever it is until, the spring or the summer. So you might need to make them aware of the fact that this is it. You're sort of like, I don't want to say cutting them off, but you are taking a little bit of distance from whatever it is that they need in terms of material and financial support. Speaking of financial support, you could be supporting some family members around this time, but I believe you are also a tiny bit frustrated. If you're basically helping anyone financially, you're probably frustrated with how they are approaching the topic of finances in general. Maybe they are doing this in a very kind of emotional, purely kind of like instinctive, maybe impulsive manner, and you're not having it anymore. You're like, no, you got to be structured about it. You got to be disciplined about it. You got to be intentional about how you spend your money. So that is very, very possible. Some of you could be revisiting your investment sector if you have investments, and you might decide maybe to sell off some things. By the way, this is not financial advice. Please take it as pure entertainment only. You are completely responsible for what you do with your money. So this could be a good time to revisit what you've been investing in and decide whether you're going to keep investing in maybe some stocks, or whether you're going to cut some losses, or maybe you're just kind of like taking some wins and putting some money towards something else. I repeat, you are super focused about what you want to do from a financial perspective. And I think it's worth channeling that focus. You might also fix something around the house. You might replace something around the house. You might repair something around the house, and it feels like everyone benefits. Or you might buy something for the house for maybe a parent, and you're like, hey, here's a new, vacuum cleaner. So there might be a bit of a kind of like charitable element coming into the mix. There is a strong focus also, Sagittarius risings especially, on the topic of intimacy. And I feel like maybe you are overcoming some barriers in that space, or some strong defense walls in that space when it comes to your interaction with, it could be with a romantic partner, but it could also be with, when I say intimacy, I'm not just referring to physical stuff. I'm referring to letting someone in, being vulnerable with someone. Maybe your relationship with a family member that has not historically been the easiest, and now it feels like you're bonding. You're getting sort of like closer together in some shape or form. My dear Capricorns, Capricorn suns and Capricorn risings, what's going on? 3rd of January, full moon in Cancer. It's activating your partnership sector. Now, I will say this. This full moon puts the spotlight on other people. Other people being partners. It could be life partners. It could be business partners. It could also be, let's see. Your relationships with colleagues, siblings, neighbors, cousins, anyone who is providing any sort of health-related service. Business partnerships, I think I might have mentioned them before, are very, 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 very much in the spotlight. Also because we've got the Capricorn Cancer axis activated, and Capricorn generally is all about business and profession. But you're probably kind of like dealing with other people a great deal. You might say, Rux, are you serious? Life is all about dealing with other people. Well, this time it's about dealing with certain important people where you might have had enough. You might have had enough. You might say, okay, I'm going to cut you loose. I need to make you aware of the fact that things are not working in the way that I want them to work. Now, you could be doing this in a business setup. I feel like I really have to reiterate this. You could also be telling someone, such as, I don't know, a sibling, you're no longer going to accept certain things from their side. You might even be telling one of your kids. You might kind of like tell them off if you have kids. You might say, hey, you can't do that. I'm not going to accept it moving forward. I'm not going to tolerate it moving forward. The issue is that the other person, whoever it is that you're having this face-off with, and I do see it as a little bit of a face-off, you're probably going to come across, by the way, as very judgy. I'm sorry to say it, Capricorns, but you might come across as very harsh and judgy. Now, are you in the right? You might very well be in the right. You might be very pragmatic. You might take a very realistic approach to the whole situation, but the other person might sense this harshness from you. And they might have a really kind of like overwhelming emotional reaction. They might cry, they might throw a tantrum, they might make you feel guilty, which is why I say be aware of the fact that whoever it is that you're dealing with and whoever it is that you need to maybe put back in their place, they're going to have a strong reaction to it. They are going to feel a lot of things, and you might want to dial down the harshness. You might want to dial down the assertiveness. You might want to dial down the bluntness. You're probably going to be very blunt. I mean, Mars is in your first house. You're going to be like, bam, this is it. This is what I have to deliver. This is the issue. This is the problem. I am not saying yes to this thing anymore. But hey, mindful of their feelings. There's also a possibility that you might have a little bit of an argument with your significant other, with a romantic partner. You're not necessarily seeing eye to eye when it comes to maybe one of the following. When it comes to a home-related matter, a future goals related matter. Maybe when it comes to a children-related matter. I mean, it could be home or children, either or. Even though maybe you're thinking, hey, I'm the practical one. I'm the pragmatic one. I am right. Whatever this other person is saying doesn't make any sense. They're just being overly emotional. They're very attached to their way of doing things. They're overreacting. The reality is that the other person just wants you to hear them out, just wants you to empathize with them, just wants you to maybe meet them a little bit halfway, and consider an alternative option where their feelings matter. I mean, their feelings matter regardless, but give them the time of day and take into account the fact that things could potentially develop differently in such a way that they also feel like their emotional needs are being met. There is also a possibility you may feel like attacking someone. Now, that doesn't mean that you're attacking them physically or, in that sort of straightforward manner. But you may want to call them out. You may want to say, hey, you are being completely irrational. You are acting out of impulse or total instinct, and it makes no sense what you're doing. So you might sort of hit the bullseye. if you want to keep on working with this person or having a good relationship with this person moving forward, whether it's a work relationship, whether it's a personal relationship, dial it down. Take a more moderate approach. Inquire. Ask them questions. Say, hey, how are you feeling? Is everything okay on your end? Have you been going through anything? Because you may not have access to the full picture. You might just see the kind of like practical implications, and the other person might say, oh, but this happened and this happened and this happened. So you might catch them at a very sort of sensitive time. Just making you aware, Capricorns. My dear Aquarius, Aquarius suns and Aquarius risings, 3rd of January, active 3 days before, 3 days after, we've got a full moon in Cancer. What was going on, Aquarians? End of June 2025. What were you working on? What was happening on the professional front? Who are you dealing with professionally? Were there any specific projects that you were just starting off or that you decided to focus on? Or was there anything that you decided to start off from a health perspective? Maybe you decided to invest more in your health. Maybe you decided to join a gym or hire a personal trainer, or maybe you decided to hire a therapist. Essentially, this full moon is kind of bringing things to fruition. So if you were working on anything end of June, you're seeing the results now, beginning of January. Some of you could be seeing the final kind of like outcome of a job, of a project. Some of you could be wrapping up a job. Some of you could be finalizing something in the work sector, which you seem to have very mixed feelings about. On the one hand, it looks very good on the outside. So other people might say, hey, Aquarius, especially Aquarius risings, well done. You made this happen. This is fantastic. The client is super happy. The team is super happy. You, on the other hand, might have all of these frustrations that you're probably going to keep to yourselves. You might be frustrated because maybe you could not do things in the way that you wanted to do them. Maybe you were not in full agreement with certain approaches, maybe that your manager had, or that your colleagues had, or that your I don't know, like boss, the leader of the company had. Maybe it feels like this work project took a lot from you from a personal life perspective. Maybe you had to work a lot behind the scenes. I feel like you did a lot of work behind the scenes, and maybe it's a good thing that this work project is ending, because you can now rest more, sleep more. You can take some time. You can take some time away from the kind of significant demands of this project, day to day wise. Health is in the spotlight at the time of this full moon, I will say, Aquarians, and especially Aquarius risings. There might be some sort of a health crisis, I'm going to call it. I am going to call it a crisis. It doesn't have to be a crisis, but it could be, because Mars is involved. Something could be very strongly inflamed in your body. I repeat, this is not medical advice. Please take the advice of your doctor. Take this information as pure entertainment only. There could be a sense of something being like strongly inflamed in the body. It could be connected with the stomach. It could also be connected with teeth, gums, joints possibly, skin. It could also be connected with maybe something that you were vaguely aware of health-wise, but you did not realize that it was so important to act as soon as possible in order to kind of resolve it or fix it. So there is a possibility of something inflammatory being on your mind from a health standpoint. I do believe, I repeat, that you can act fast. You are receiving a strong degree of protection health-wise from Jupiter, the greater benefic in your house of health. But also Jupiter can magnify any kind of like underlying health issues. It's important to make a decision. It is important to maybe decide to invest a little bit less emotionally in your work and to focus more on your health. And that doesn't mean that you won't be doing a great job moving forward, but do you have to get all emotionally kind of like worked up because of what's going on in the professional space? I don't think so. I don't think you have to. But you care very deeply, and sometimes that can backfire. There's a possibility that some of you could be accepting a new job. Some of you could be walking away from a job. Some colleagues might be walking away from your existing sort of work setup. You might decide to, if you have employees, to cut down on the sort of like number of employees that you're working with. I mean, unfortunately, they might have very kind of like strong emotional reactions to this, but from a practical, from a pragmatic perspective, you are probably in the right to say, hey, we gotta narrow things down a little bit. The team is too big, it's too spread out. Things are not working as they should, as they are supposed to. If you can, I would take it easy from a workout perspective, from a physical perspective, because there is a bit of a risk of overdoing things and then suffering a tiny little bit from a physical standpoint. So it's not the time to try to, I don't know, score personal bests in the gym, if you ask me. And if you are working in a physical setup, so if your day job involves physical movement, if you're using your body, do be mindful of the fact that there is a little bit of a risk of accidents. Now, this should not scare you off. It should just be a reminder to trust your gut, to trust your intuition, to trust your instinct, and to not overdo things, even if maybe you are not achieving everything that you've set out to achieve from a goals perspective. Sometimes safe is much better. I mean, not sometimes, all the time. Safe is better than sorry. So you shouldn't kind of like push yourselves to wrap things up very quickly and then, God forbid, like slip on something or like have a physical kind of incident, and like it could be a fall or something in that realm. So take it easy, and choose your battles very wisely with colleagues in the workplace, because there is a chance that if you confront someone very openly, so I would be more on the reserved side. If you confront someone very openly, they seem to be in the good graces of maybe a boss, a manager, like a person in power, and they might try to sabotage you further down the line. Is that something worth, I don't know, exposing yourselves to? I don't know. I don't think so, Aquarians, but that's just me. My dear Pisces, thank you for sticking around. Pisces suns and Pisces risings, 3rd of January, active 3 days before, 3 days after. We've got a full moon in Cancer, activating your 5th house, 11th house axis. I mean, for some Pisces, I believe this full moon is going to bring a party. It's probably going to bring some sort of entertaining event. There is a high chance of going out, of getting together with people, of attending a group type of event. You do seem to be having fun. Maybe you're also attending, I don't know, like a party with, if you have kids, with your kids, and other parents are coming, and there's generally this feel-good energy in the air. I mean, you are in a very good place, in a very good spot, in a very good position, my dear Pisces, because Jupiter, which is your chart ruler, is exalted in Cancer until June of 2026, until the end of June. Now, why am I saying this? Because if you are attending a party, a fun event, a fight might erupt between friends or between your kids and someone else's kids. There is a possibility that you might choose a side. I think there's no other way to say it. You might choose a side. You might think, oh, my kid is in the right and the other kid is in the wrong. I would recommend, rather than trying to persuade the other person that they are wrong, or to persuade their parent more than anything else, I would recommend taking a bit of a step back, acting from a space of intuition, of calm, of allowing things to go with the flow, and not pouring gasoline on the argument or the metaphorical fire, because it can all escalate. There's a possibility you might just kind of like witness very like strong debates between friends around this time, and maybe you do have, I repeat, a certain affinity with someone, but I would choose very wisely whether you voice that affinity or not. I mean, you can, but you might get sucked into the argument, and are you in the mood for that? I don't think so. I believe not. Some of you, if you're trying for this might hear news of pregnancy around the time of this full moon. This full moon can also put the spotlight on your kids, and I repeat, the kids can have a bit of an argument with someone else, but I don't think they need you to make them aware just yet of the other person's perspective, or kind of like seeing things from their standpoint. I feel like your child just needs your support emotionally. And further down the line, you can sit them down and say, hey, let's talk. Let's kind of like see things from all angles. So you can kind of like turn it into an educational moment a little bit further down the line. Because right now, what your child seems to need is that sense of home and nurturance and compassion and you holding space for them emotionally. Maybe they just need to vent. Maybe they just need to rant. Speaking of rants, a friend could have a good sort of like venting session in your presence. And I repeat, I don't think you necessarily need to contribute to this. You might just be there kind of like listening and empathizing and being a safe person for them. This one can also put the spotlight on your romantic life. There is a possibility you might feel very much in love. My dear Pisces, if you are looking to date, it is a good time to date. If you are making a romantic relationship more official, if you're kind of like taking your romantic partner out with your friends, I believe that someone in your circle might have some very strong feelings, and not necessarily feelings of support towards your romantic partner or romantic choices. Should you care? Should you engage? Should you convince them that they're not saying things the right way? I don't think so. I don't think it's worth it. I think you know best what works for you. Trust your heart, trust your gut, trust your intuition. And people are going to judge. People are going to say things. People will maybe sometimes even, I mean, it's a sad reality, but sometimes when people are miserable, they feel the need to publicly attack or kind of like bring down a notch other people who seem to be having a joyful time, a good time, a happy time, who maybe are happy in their romantic lives. And the other person maybe is a little bit miserable, and they're like subconsciously trying to make others partake in their misery. Human psychology is very complicated. What can we say? Enjoy yourselves, Pisces. That is my recommendation. Also, you're very creatively inspired. So if you are involved in anything creative, I feel like creativity is flowing through you. And even if maybe other people are not seeing things your way from a creative perspective, that doesn't mean that you should give in. I think that this time you should go with your intuition. You should go with your gut. Thank you, folks, for tuning in for your full moon in Cancer update. Let us know in the comments how this full moon unfolds for you. Remember that if you want to work with me, you can find me on my website, which is written in the stars-astrology.com. Also in the pinned comments, also in the description box. Also, there is an emergency reading option if you do not want to wait from the moment that you make the booking. There's generally like a few weeks, like to a month, maybe even more than that waiting time for us to get together and to have your session. So if you don't want to wait, there is an emergency reading option on my website as well. Don't forget about Astro and Calendar, the app that adds the most important astrological events of the month from my monthly horoscopes into your calendar as events with descriptions for your rising sign. The same descriptions from my forecast, which if you have time, you can write them down yourselves. But if you want to save time, try Astro and Calendar app, which I have teamed up with. If you're active on Instagram and also on TikTok, but mostly on Instagram, I like Instagram. I feel like I'm more active on Instagram. Rux Unbelievable in one word is my Instagram handle. Rux Unbelievable. That is my only Instagram handle. And have fun, stay safe, and I will see you next time. Thank you.